We should decide, take turns to bring a snack or something.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
You know, like
A little, yeah, like two of us at a time.
Thank goodness I have some Doritos in my car.
I'm like, I'll add it to my soccer snack list and baseball snack list.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was thinking exactly the same thing.
Oh,
Others cameras.
Oh,
When there's meetings, I'm just gonna.
come on.
Should I just go ahead?
Good start, yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here at the Natomas Charter School Board meeting for the month of March and calling our meeting to order at 5:04. Let's proceed to roll call. Karen Harding Davis,
Karen will not be joining us today.
Nita Kushal,
Here.
Sean King,
Yes, yeah.
Gina Lee, Dr. Maria Mojorado,
Here,
Pretty Merchant,
Here.
Jennifer Morgan,
here.
Ashante Norton, I'm here. Jonathan Cord,
Jonathan will not be joining us.
Tanaya Safi, Lillian Carter,
Here.
Crystal Locke,
Here.
Ileana Machado.
Here.
Moving on to hearing of the public for items on the closed session agenda.
None submitted.
Hearing none, we'll adjourn to closed session to consider and or take action upon the following items. First, student matter pursuant to Government Code Section 48918. Stipulated expulsion recommendation, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, administrative, executive director evaluation and employment. We will convene to close session at 5:05.
All right.
Thank you.
The whole Hudson. There you go, now the room's on.
Alicia Carter, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good.
All right, Ms. Hone, let us know when you are ready for us.
I am ready for you.
Okay?
So, do I have, no, do I have a council? Okay. I'm good, yep. Okay, I will call us back to order at 6:33. Action taken during closed session. Item number 2, approved.
Is that the expulsion?
Pardon me?
That was for the expulsion?
Yes.
Okay.
Action regarding stipulated expulsion recommendation number 2022001.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up, we have recognitions and celebrations. Actually, excuse me, do I need to take a roll call vote that we're back?
No, not for that, but was there any action taken for the item regarding the executive director's employment and evaluation?
No action taken.
No action on that. Great, thank you.
All right, recognitions and celebrations.
Are you ready?
All right, we're
Okay.
ready for you, Ms. Vera.
Yay.
Is it B2 on the US?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
please. All right. Am I on the camera now? Okay. Okay. So thank you all for being here tonight. It is so wonderful to be able to give recognition to our students here on campus in person. I know some of you have been putting this off a couple of months because I didn't want to do it virtually. We've had enough virtual things in our lives. But we are here today to celebrate we had 24 students that were reclassified as English proficient in this last year, which in and of itself is amazing because last year was a doozy of a year. That was a hard year with the at-home learning and then, coming back for just a little bit. And so I think even more so, this shows the dedication and the hard work of our students. In order for students to get reclassified, what they need to do is they need to show that they're proficient in their core academic classes like math and science and history and English, in addition to passing a test which specifically tests their English language skills, which is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And so it really is quite an honor when they are able to accomplish this. So what I will do is, students, when I call your name, you will come up here, and then here I'm going to show you.
Model for you.
I'm going to model it. You're going to walk up like this, and then you're going to come right here so we can see your beautiful, beautiful eyes. And then Ms. Morgan is going to give you your certificate, okay? And then you'll go back over this way, okay? All right. So our first recipient is Aditi Deo. Come on down. Give you that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Don't take pictures. Be the photographer. All right. You guys can group together.
Oh.
All right, great job.
Yay. Okay, our next student is Kyle Land. Come on down. There you go.
Great job. There you go.
Awesome. All right, our next student is Uliana Taglina.
And parents, I'll share these pictures also with Mrs. Burial, and she can email them to you. So
Yeah.
you get a copy as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
All right. Awesome.
And our last one that is here tonight, although we have many more, is Caitlin Ajou. Oh, you're right. Oh, good. You're so kind.
Congratulations.
Oh, I love it. That's so awesome. Perfect.
This style, Caitlin. So thank you so much for celebrating our students today, and then we had a whole bunch more that weren't here tonight, but I think they'll feel our love and our appreciation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you're so remarkable.
Appropriate.
Oh,
Oh, you're on the eggs. Yeah.
So we have another set of awards, and these are the Middle School Achievement Awards. And so this is actually an honor that is citywide. They look at the exceptional middle schoolers throughout Sacramento. It's called the Frank Withrow Awards. And this is a really special award to me because Mr. Withrow was actually one of my mentors like a billion years ago when I was in middle school. He passed away August of 2020. And so it's a really, really special award for me to be able to honor our students. And so these students, we have three actually from Leading Edge and one from PFA here today. We have one other that will receive her award tomorrow. And these are students who have high honors throughout all their middle school career. Two of them do volunteer work on issues of homelessness and poverty. They're athletes. They are positive contributors to not only our Natomas charter school community, but the community as a whole. So we are very proud of these young people, and we are excited to be able to honor them today. So our first person is Olivia Ming. You just hold it up.
Congratulations.
You're not escaping the photos, Dr. Ellis.
Karis Williams. Instead of standing.
Oh, maybe.
We'll put it.
All right, there you go. Sorry, I'll send you a picture. Don't worry.
She's back here.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Jonathan Bisrat.
Congratulations, Jen.
There you go. Gotcha.
And last but not least, Maya Boulay.
Awesome. All right, I got all my.
Oh, was there one call mine? Call mine, come back, your mom will try to.
Dr. Goodness,
You can come closer. I got it.
I know we had one other person walk in, but I really want to say thank you to all the parents that came. Usually our board members, I mean, there's not that they're boring, but we get to. It really is exciting to be able to celebrate our students. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
there's one.
I have a student that arrived that I want to give the certificate to. So this is a certificate of reclassification for Nippon Binder.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome job.
Can I have one? Yeah, you must have. Hey, everybody.
Dad's gonna get a picture too.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. We're all-
That's it.
all done.
All right.
That was fun.
That's great.
All right, families, children, you're more than welcome to stay with us this evening, but I also have dinner, homework, sports, laundry, all the fun things to do. So if you,
Bringing endorsement.
yeah. If you need to adjourn, please feel free to adjourn. As Dr. Ellis was mentioning, thank you for coming and joining us tonight. It really means a lot to have you all here, so thank you. Another one.
Yeah.
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 Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. That was tons of fun. Like I said, let's have more of that. Student information updates. Tanaya, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Give
us 1 second, we're gonna turn you up so we can hear you.
Go ahead, Tanaya.
Hi, I wanted to at least say Happy Pi Day. And for the March 24th board meeting, I wanted to talk to you about the STEM night that Ms. Babayoff had planned for Leading Edge on February 16th. And at the STEM night, we had lots of fun activities like math, there was a ball experiment, there was water savings, and then pagers from students, as well as there were raffles and gift cards for people who had completed the most amount of games at STEM night. And there was Barnes and Nobles, Roblox, etc. And there was also a DC information night for the 8th grade trip next year. And for the parents of the 7th graders for next year's trip, as well as Math Club had a math counts test for the online math competition on February 17th. And the girls basketball team won championships, so yay for them. And on February 17th at the 3:30 at Indracom, they had their championships. And then we also had a spirit week with our 4th rally leading up to our 4th rally on Friday on February 25th. It was a blackout / glow in the dark theme rally. And our Spirit Week days were Wednesday, which was anything but a backpack day. We had interesting ones there. We had some laundry baskets. We had some guitar cases, coolers. It was kind of fun. Then Thursday, we had Mismatch Day. Even the teachers participated in that one. And then we had Friday, which was Neon / White Day for the rally. And then all homerooms got glow-in-the-dark sticks and fun accessories to go with the rally, as well as Tycho did a performance with the Indracom students that also participate in their Tycho team. And we had a badminton game, as well as acknowledgements for the basketball teams, the boys and girls, and a student performance. And then the 8th graders also have started their end of the year portfolios. And we have the 8th graders did a rock, paper, and scissors web activity with the 6th graders in homeroom on March 4th. And we started a new learning lab session on March. There was career exploration, math, etc. And we have the soccer teams for 6th and 7th grade, girls and boys. They had their scrimmage soccer game out on the field on March 3rd at 3 to 4, and they had their tryouts for the 7th and 8th grade teams on March 8th and March 9th. And then the teams and rosters were chosen on March 10th, and the regular practices are starting on Wednesday, as well as games will start on March 23rd, every Tuesdays and every Thursday. And the sixth graders still have regular practices and games going on for their soccer team, as well as Try 2 ended on March 4th, and Try 3 started March 7th. And we'll have CAS testing starting and being held in April. That's pretty much it for this
All
month's board
right.
meeting.
Next person on the list, thank you, Tanaya. Lily Carter.
For this month's board meeting, I'm going to tell you about what's happening this month. March 15th is the last day of quarter 3 workshops. March 18th is no school. On March 16th through March 30th, CAS testing is happening. On March 25th, fitness testing and packed field day happens. On April 8th, the middle schoolers are doing a movie night get together from 2 to 4. April 14th through April 22nd is spring break.
All right, thanks, Lily. Next, Crystal with PFAA.
Hi guys, happy Pi Day. For my student report, I want to announce that ASB is launching Multicultural Month this month to celebrate cultural diversity on campus. Some events that we'll be doing is Taste of the World, the high school and middle school rallies and assemblies. We'll have a guest speaker at those, a town hall for high school, and Artist of the Week. This week, Nolan Moss Goldsby's senior project Hip Hop by Charter is happening on the 17th, and students can still sign up to participate and showcase their hip hop art. So if any students are watching, you can sign up by reaching out to Nolan. The middle school play Through the Looking Glass launched last week with a rally sneak peek on March 1st. PFA yearbooks are on sale through the 29th of April, and all purchasing will be online. The junior and senior prom tickets are also on sale, and prom will be April 9th. And then Middle School Spirit Week was 2 weeks ago. On February 26th, Link Crew, web leaders, and ASB officers helped with leading the auditioning students around the campus and helping them feel comfortable during the audition stations. The 8th graders are preparing for a portfolio on May 12th and 13th, with a big deadline coming up on the 11th of this month. The senior economics class welcomes speakers from Operation Protect and Defend on the 24th of February to learn about the Second Amendment and its role in federal courts. The middle school dance Winter Wonderland happened on February 11th in the amphitheater, and the high school dance La Nuit de la Lune, the Night of the Moon, happened on the 12th in the gym. Both dances were huge successes. The Tears of My Children mural by PFA alumni Colleen Matias was installed in February, and it's on campus, so you've probably seen it. Students for Equality had an educational meeting about the mural during Win Time on the 16th of February. The NCS Black Rock Dance Company sold Valentine's candy grams in February to fundraise, and the acting department is also selling grams this month called Lucky Grams, I believe, which is another senior project. So check that out. And lastly, ASB elections happened, and the 2022/2023 elected officers has been announced. Appointed positions were just confirmed last week. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Crystal. The next one, Ileana with VLA.
Hi guys. So for this month, we have class meetings from the 2nd through the 4th, and we have CASP testing actually this week from the 14th through the 17th, and there will be no workshop for students at VLA. And 11th graders will start on the 14th, which is today, with ELA, and then on the 15th, 11th graders will also be going through the math portion of CASP testing. And then on Wednesday, both seniors and juniors will take the science portion, because last year you seniors were not able to take this portion due to fun difficulties. An additional makeup time will be on the 17th for regular PE and testing, and there's no school on Friday. And then this is a little mistake I made on my end. Spring break is not this month, but going to be next month in April. And then leadership is doing a multicultural events this month, and leadership is planning different activities and games that involve everyone or anyone that wants to participate. March 28th through the April 1st is going to be when we celebrate our Multicultural Month and having activities that leadership plans. And we'll be having a food potluck where will be the LC where students bring their favorite food from their culture they can bring. And then there'll also be dress up days where students can dress up and represent their culture through clothes. And after school cultural movie night is going to be throughout the week as well. And lastly, throughout the week, we'll have a map where students can pin where their family originates from. So it'll be a fun little thing in the LC we do. And then leadership students are also pushing into Leading Edge Middle School and PFAA 8th graders to join VLA. And leadership also made videos describing why they attend VLA as part of our rebranding campaign program as we transition into Early College Academy. And this is to just have students and 8th graders understand what VLA does, as well as what the potential of our academy is to grow into. And I think that is about it for this month. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanaya, Lily, Crystal, and Ileana for your updates. You're welcome to stay with us, or you can go do your homework. It's purely your choice. Thank you. Our next hearing of the public for items not on the agenda.
Nothing submitted via the form.
Okay, thank you. Hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
Also nothing submitted.
Excellent. Okay, next, any comments on tonight's agenda? Okay, may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Shante. May I have a second?
I'll second. Just Preeti.
Thank you, Preeti. Roll call vote, Nita.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Gina.
Yes.
Maria.
Yes.
Preeti.
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Ashante.
Yes.
Okay. Moving right along. Consent items. Any comments on our consent items? Nope. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent item?
Did I approve the February 14th board meeting minutes? Did I do that?
It's bundled in the consent items. No, you approved the agenda for tonight.
Oh, okay, because I wasn't here last month. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Okay. So consent items bundle, may I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Thank you, Maria. Second? Okay, thank you, Nita. Roll call vote. Ashante?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Preeti?
Yes.
Dr. Micaralo?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Sean King?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
Okay. And let's see, action items. Dr. Ellis, approve the A through G completion improvement grants.
And so this is a follow-up from last month where I did the actual plan presentation. In this month's board agenda, the actual plan is laid out based on what we will be spending the funding on. As I mentioned last month, it would be for the extended school year, which is summer school, the extended school day, and then professional development and staffing support.
May I have a motion to approve the A through G completion improvement grant?
I motion to approve.
Thanks, Preeti. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Gina. Okay, roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
Ashante?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Maria?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Gina? Yes. Excellent. Thank you. I'm so used to being on camera that I'm looking at the list. It might work just to look around the room. Just a thought. Welcome back, everyone. Anita, our second interim budget.
Zita's gonna present for me then. Got it. And you can go ahead and advance to the next slide, which we are using our standard format here where we're going to touch on our obligation, our summary, our financial position, which includes our multi-year projection and next steps in the budget cycle. But I did add for you a couple of new slides and new pictures for you here. So
Just as a reminder, next slide is our obligation that we do need to do 2 interim reports. Oh, it's not, there we go, okay. And this is our last budget update for 21-22, and then you won't see another update until we come to the adopted budget side for that. So, Viva, next slide, please. So, second interim at a glance. So, looking at our revenues and stuff, I just kind of wanted to put revenues and expenditures side by side. We are on the revenue side, we're still getting about 95% of our money from student attendance on there, or student generated attendance. And on the expenditure side, we're at about 79% salaries and benefits at this time. So, Ziva, if you go to the next slide. This is one of my favorite ones, expenditures by function. So with this chart, what's interesting and what we're proud of here is that 74% of our expenditures are going towards direct or indirect instruction for students and pupil support. And that's really, that's a high percentage compared to other districts and stuff too. Next slide, okay. So this is the bird's eye view of our financial summary, where we have the first column of our first interim report, then our second interim update, and the variance column here. So we are projecting about 21.7 million in revenues, and that is an improvement of $473,088. For our expenditures, they went down a little bit, which is great news. It's 22.0 million. So we have a savings of 92,000 as well. So at first interim, we were projecting a larger deficit, deficit spending, I should say, and that's because we booked our one-time carryovers. We also had enrollment reductions that we budgeted for and things like that. And then as of the second interim report, we were able to see how we're doing and capture as much savings as we could on here. Although we still project to have some fallout when we close the books, which I am hoping that we will be in the black by the time that comes. But it is an improvement to our bottom line of $565,365. So, and we have, just so that you know, over 500,000 of one-time restricted funds in this expenditure budget. So that more than covered our deficit and stuff too, because it went into our fund balance and we pulled it out to spend it this year. So we are projecting a $12.7 million fund balance. So next slide, see that? If we want to kind of look at what makes up that increase of the 565,000, just looking at the revenue side, we updated our LCFF unduplicated pupil percentage. So at first interim, we did have some preliminary numbers for CalPADS, and we were still trying to extend out and get our free and reduced applications as much in as possible, having the district validate them and things like that. So after the revised fall certification, we were able to increase that. We're still down about 74 students compared to the previous year, but we were able to increase some funding there. We're also getting about $7,000 of additional federal special ed funding. Also, one of the things that I wanted to mention, as we built the second interim budget, the governor's budget, which I presented to you last month, he came out with his January proposal, which comes out with a new dartboard of all assumptions. So in preparing the second interim budget, we are using those updated assumptions. And one of those things was for the current year as well, was an increase in the lottery rates that they're projecting for unrestricted and restricted. And so that generated about $56,000 as well. So we're happy about that. We got some additional state revenues, which is related to categorical funds. Mainly the educator effectiveness money came in. Local revenues and donations increased about 14,000. And of that really, the most of that increase is related to the skate program. More participation fees were able to increase, and a little bit more of donations as well. Next slide. When we look at the expenditure side, we had a savings of $124,084 for salary and benefits. So that helped our bottom line. So at the second interim period, what we're doing is we can now capture the savings of those late starts and that period of time when we had somebody fill the position, resigned, and rehire and get all that gap money. So we can pull all of that out. And then also we had open enrollment for our health and welfare plan year. And so we were able to capture some of those savings because we had a rate pass this year. So those people who are below the cap under our minimum limit of $825, none of the other rates went up to kind of push towards that soft cap. So we had some savings there. So that was great. Supplies, materials, and services. Net together, we showed an increase of about $35,000, and it's mainly due to utilities on there. And then capital outlay, we had a decrease of almost $4,000 in the facility planning costs. We did put our Black Rock expansion program on hold. However, we didn't reduce the budget that much because we are using some of that money for the planning stage for our universal TK meetings. So next page, okay. So on here, I put a couple of fund balance slides. What these slides represent is looking at the pie chart for the fund balance as a whole. So that $12.7 million and what percentage of each of the components of the fund balance was. So the top one, the big one, does show most of all of the parts of the fund balance. The bottom one shows, based on our fiscal policy for fiscal reserves, we separate by operation reserves and program reserves. So program reserves are about 37%, whereas operational reserves are the larger chunk. And the operational reserves is the economics for uncertainties, the cash reserves, cash in the bank, as well as undistributed funds and our unrestricted lottery funds. All of the set-asides for PERS and STIRS and restricted programs, salary reductions to avoid layoffs and things like that are on that program side piece on there. And that's something that you can find on page 12 on the financial statements there. And next one, for the financial projections, just looking at the 2 out years, we used that the governor's January budget proposal. And what was a nice surprise during this proposal is that they are projecting a higher COLA, a 5.33% COLA, which we had gone over last month. But that is a significant increase because previously it was 2.48% or so. And so that really helped our bottom line with deficit spending. You can see that we were in the black as having a little bit of a surplus on the 2 out years. So our revenues are more than our expenditures. We've taken out all of the one-time money from this year going into those out years, keeping enrollment flat at this point right now. And then on the expenditure side, we removed a lot of carryover dollars as one-time dollars, and then included step and level increases for the staff, the STIRS and PERS increases, and also increasing for inflation for utilities using the CPI index and stuff too, which also went up a little bit too. But you can see that we are projecting a healthy fund balance as well. As we build our budget, we're hoping it remains that way on it. See if you want to get to this. So the bottom line is we continue to be fiscally sound for the current and 2 subsequent years. I've outlined there on the screen the projected ending fund balances for the current and 2 out years. And you can see we're at about 58% of our fund balance is 58% of total expenditures. And it stays about the same for the 2 out years. For cash, we are positive every month. And we're hovering around that $1 million or $11 million mark on there. So that is considered a positive certification. This is the budget that we will be presenting to the Natomas Unified Board probably April, May. They haven't given us a date. So anyway, so it does look a much better picture than first. So next. So the next steps is we will be updating this year's budget as what we call estimated actuals. It'll be side by side with our adopted budget, and we'll bring that to you in June. Joe and I will be attending the school services May revise on May 20th, and that's the final assumptions that will go into our adopted budget on that piece. We are in the middle of budget development already. It's continuing between now and May, and part of the budget now is the LCAP. And so another new template coming on out. We continue to use the document tracking solutions, but, and they have updated it for us and stuff too. But 22-23 represents the second year in our third year LCAP cycle and stuff. But the format, all the details should be the same. The format's gonna change a little bit. And we also, in conjunction, will be presenting LCAP for, we have to do it in 2 separate board meetings. So we're having 2 June board meetings, so we'll do the LCAP and then approve all of that stuff. So I'll open it up for questions for the next slide. If there's anything I can answer.
Any questions?
Any questions, anybody? Good? Okay, thank you, Anita. May I have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 second interim budget?
I so.
Thank you, Maria. May I have a second? Okay, thank you, Ashanti. Roll call vote, Gina?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Ashanti?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Well, even though COVID ended, just a couple of days ago, we do still have an update.
Oh, not yet. We had to approve board meeting dates and times for next year.
Did I miss that?
You're
Wow.
just anxious.
I'm excited. I'm excited about the COVID update. I'm sorry, Ms. Holman. Yes, approve. Talk to us about those board meeting dates.
Well, here they are. We have the 2 meetings actually scheduled in advance for June for next year. We don't have a second board meeting for June established for this year, so I'll be sending out a notice to y'all to get that established, but that's reflected here. And then also the 2 90-minute closed sessions that you will all need for the executive director evaluation is indicated on here as well. So, ta-da.
And most importantly, there is no Valentine's Day.
I was just, we're actually going to give everybody time to review that. We clearly missed it last year. I see October 17th. Does anybody celebrate the anniversary of the Big Quake? No, okay. No need to. Loma Prieta, 1989.
Yeah.
Sorry, my hometown.
It's good that you remember that.
Nothing else? You don't forget that. And that's it. I think everything else is good. If anybody else has any objections, let us know. Okay, I think we should.
I won't inundate your calendars yet with these dates. I'll kind of wait and do that more towards June. So you won't see the invites come through for this until sometime.
Yeah. And also remember, the board can always decide to call a meeting. You know, we follow the Brown Act in terms of like the amount of time and that sort of thing, but we can always add meetings. And if we have an agenda, a meeting date where we have nothing on the agenda, we can also cancel a meeting. So
When has that
it's been a while. Maybe when the global pandemic is over.
That's right. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the 2022-2023 board meeting dates?
So moved.
Thank you, Ashanti. We have a second? Second. Thank you, Nita. Roll call vote, Sean.
Yes.
Nita. Yes. Ashanti.
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Maria.
Yes.
Preeti. Yes. Gina.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Now time for the COVID update.
Now we're here.
I don't want to jinx us, but I'm hoping this might actually be one of our last COVID updates. Maybe we can talk about something else one day. Deepa's gonna bring up some slides for us. But as she's bringing up some slides, I think as everyone is well aware, today was our first day of masking being a personal choice here at Natomas Charter School. And it was very successful. It was very interesting to visit classrooms. So generally speaking, the older students were, the more likely they were to wear masks. So when I went into kindergarten classrooms, there might be like 2 kids wearing a mask, but when I went into a high school classroom, there were 2 kids not wearing a mask. So it was very interesting, just to kind of see, how kids were navigating it. And I think every adult walked around with a mask in their pocket, just in case they walked into a meeting and there were a bunch of people wearing masks. We're all trying to figure out how we navigate this and create. One thing I am very proud of Natomas Charter School and was very happy to observe today is it was a culture with a high degree of respect.
Okay.
Students and staff were very thoughtful and intentional about how do we make sure that everyone feels safe and comfortable on campus. And it was a very inclusive day. So that was nice to see.
I would expect nothing less, but it's happy.
Yeah.
Good to hear that.
Yeah, it was really nice to see. All right, so our quick little COVID update here. I can go to the next slide. So we've actually had quite a bit of exciting stuff going on campus in the past month. In the upper left corner, there's some pictures of the leading edge STEM night that was mentioned earlier. Our girls basketball team actually won the district championships this year. So that was our leading girls.
Next meeting?
But yeah, we should have them come.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have them come. Yeah. We should have kids at every meeting. So kids at every meeting. Moving across the top, our vocal department had a cabaret night at the Guild Theater in Oak Park. If you've never been to the Guild Theater, it was a very cool area. And then Max Stern in the upper right corner is actually was the first runner up for Poetry Out Loud this month for the entire county. And then down in the bottom, lower left is actually a picture of Poetry Out Loud occurring here in the room. We had students reading stories at Star Academy for Read Across America. I want to call it Read Aloud Day. We're actually talking about doing though, Read Across America this year kind of fell in the mix of all of the COVID mask situations that we were navigating. And so we didn't get to have a big school-wide event. So we're actually kind of looking at how we can bring back a school-wide event now that things have kind of quieted. In the lower right there's a picture of Tweedledee and Tweedledum of Alistair Lookingglass. One of them is my child and his best friend. So I think the best part about this production is for the rest of their lives, I will be able to call them Tweedledee and Tweedledum. But the kids did an amazing job. It was a long musical and a short period of time to prepare, but they pulled it off. There were some nerve-wracking moments right towards opening night, but they did a great job putting it together. And in the lower right corner, we actually had a Sac State professor and someone who has a really extensive career on composing music for all sorts of different films come and teach a master class with our orchestra and band classes last week. So, in spite of a global pandemic going on and all of the things that you hear about in the world, we have some really amazing things going on here on campus. And this is just since the last board meeting. So, all right, moving us along though. We have our 4 pillars: humility, community, kindness, and conviction. That's how we're approaching COVID. And it was alive and well with the kids and staff today. Next slide. So, a lot has changed in terms of how we're operating as a school since our last board meeting. And it's all really based in this data. So Sacramento County Public Health's overall COVID case rates are down very significantly. The last data on there is around 7 cases per 100,000 residents, which keep in mind, like right around the first of the year was 238. So we saw a really significant increase and a really significant decrease. And hospital capacity is also improving. And so, I go to weekly or biweekly public health calls, and it's really clear that moving forward, all of the metrics that we're going to be looking at as a county is really based on hospitalization capacity. The public health department goal is to not have excessive mandates, whether that's masking or vaccination requirements or that sort of thing. But it's really driven by what's happening in the hospitals, and their plan is to continue to monitor COVID case rates in the community and in the county, and things like masking might return. But it's really going to be based on what's happening in the hospitals. That's their number one concern, is wanting to make sure the hospitals have the capacity to support everyone, whether it's COVID or something else. They are asking people kind of moving forward to use COVID, what they're calling COVID common sense. So, getting vaccinated, masking is recommended, especially when you're in environments where there's not a whole lot of air circulation and there's a lot of people. Testing when you're symptomatic, and really being thoughtful and intentional about protecting vulnerable family members and friends. And so, kind of goes back to the masking discussions I know I heard amongst kids today, is some of them are saying, my grandma lives with me, so that's why I'm choosing to wear a mask. And so our kids are really doing that. And much like the countywide data, our on-campus case data really reflects the same pattern, a big spike around the first of the year. But last week, knock on wood, we actually had no cases, no staff cases and no student cases. So hopefully that continues. As you can see, we're still doing a ton of testing. And at this point, we plan on having testing available at least for the remainder of this school year. There's some discussions as to whether or not that's going to continue next year. Also, the public health department they surveyed us on Thursday and Friday, wanting to know if we would be interested in take-home testing again around spring break. So we're looking at a way to do that whole take-home testing process again. So moving on. And then in terms of vaccination rates, Natomas Charter School is actually fairly well vaccinated. As a school, almost a little over 50% of our students are fully vaccinated. Staff-wise, we're about 98% of our staff being fully vaccinated. And then when we look at student populations, it's the older students are, the more likely they are to be vaccinated. So PFA's student vaccination rate is hovering around 83%. That's actually our highest academy. And then VLA is right around 70%, and leading edge is just behind them, like just below 70%. And I suspect, these numbers are going to kind of stay at this rate until the state makes some determinations as to whether or not this is going to be a requirement moving forward or not. But from talking to the front office staff, every couple of days, a few more vaccination records come in. So, people are still taking the kids to get vaccinated, and we know these things are happening. So moving on. So just in terms of public health policy changes, masking is now optional in all the schools. Quarantine protocols have changed a little bit in that to a certain degree, we're not really contact tracing anymore. We're really focusing on who's symptomatic and if they have any household contacts. So if you may not know this, but prior to the global pandemic, we had some procedures like this for lice and for strep throat. So if we learned that a student had lice or a student had strep throat, we would do just general notifications. Basically, there was strep in your child's class, or there was lice in your child's class, and really work with the family and making sure they were getting the support that they needed. Basically, we're doing the same process when it comes to COVID now. And then in terms of indoor events on campus, masking is optional. And we're no longer going to be asking for test results or vaccination cards in the Benvenuti Performing Arts Center. The Benvenuti Performing Arts Center is technically not a mega event, but I say technically because sometimes mega events are considered 1,000 or more people in an indoor space, and sometimes they're considered 500. So during the January and February, it was closer to 500. So that's why we went ahead and implemented those protocols, because that theater with people that are on stage is probably about 400 altogether. But those will be optional moving forward at this point. And then in terms of student staff vaccinations, really there's no changes at this point. Staff have to be vaccinated or test regularly or test weekly. That's a public health order that's in place, and that has not been changed at all. And then on the student side, vaccinations continue to be optional. We're waiting to see what happens. The governor has his sort of plan of an executive order in place that when it becomes FDA approved for a particular age group, that it would become mandatory the following semester. That particular legislation or order would allow for a personal belief exemption. And then the legislature, there's a SB 871 is pending in the legislature, which would basically treat COVID like other childhood immunizations, and there would not be a personal belief exemption if that moves forward. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what the legislature does. At this point, our focus has really just been on educating families, letting them know it's currently voluntary, but you should keep an eye on what's happening in the legislature because it might become a requirement moving forward. So any questions I can answer? All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Dr. Wood, we also
Yes.
have an enrollment.
Enrollment update. So next one is our enrollment update. So this is the time of the year where enrollment starts leveling off a little bit. So we're moving into third quarter. So when we move into third quarter, we stop enrolling in new students, largely so at PAC because they're getting ready for PASS testing, and it's a little hard to when a kid shows up and give them, hey, welcome to our school, you can PASS test tomorrow. But then for our high school programs, we're getting to that point in the year where they can't really earn any course credit if they enroll with us. So we usually kind of level off at this point. So you'll see that there are some subtle differences between basically second interim and our CBEDS numbers and where students or where the academies are at. These numbers are as of February 28th. So in some cases, we've actually already added and filled those particular spots. And then quarter three officially starts on March 17th. So that's kind of where we'll stop enrollment at that point for the year. Related to this, we did just wrap up the lottery for next school year last week. So we had a little over 1,500 applications go into the lottery, which is technically a little bit less than last year, but higher than the 3 previous years. So last year was kind of a little bit of an anomaly year. And at this point, in talking to the front office staff, the acceptance process has been very robust. So most of the grade levels, a good 85–90% of all the spots have already been accepted that we offered. And then what's happening right now is, Westlake is doing their offers, MP3 is doing their offers. IB and SECA from Intercom have not done their offers yet, so we might see some shuffling occur in 9th grade. We're kind of waiting to see how that shakes out. But one trend that we're noticing this year is we actually have quite a few students who were ours at Star Academy and then went someplace else for middle school that are all now trying to come back for PFAA 9th grade. And at least anecdotally talking to some of the families, there's one family that stopped me. They came for our little visit day on campus and they said, gosh, it's just so nice to be back on this campus. Even though, we were Star Academy people before, like Natomas Charter School just has a special feeling that our other school doesn't have. So they're very excited to be back. So it's kind of just an interesting trend that we're noticing this particular year. Any questions on enrollment numbers? All right, thank you.
Okay. VLA update, Mr. Dobson.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to project my screen. Let's see, slideshow. All right, can you see that okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So first and foremost, I just wanted to say I apologize. I couldn't be there in person. I'm actually down in Long Beach for the Charter School Association. I never missed school. I was actually at school, I think the day after my child was born. So this is, it's always kind of tough. And then it's the day where obviously the mask becomes optional and we have CASP testing. So I wanted to just really give a shout out to the admin team on BlackRock that's allowing me to be here today, and then also our VLA team. So obviously wanted to give a status update on where things are with the Virtual Learning Academy. And in so doing, really starting with where we have been since I've been at VLA and where we're going in the future. Going back to 2019 and 2020 school year, really focused on building structures. And as I shared last year, felt really, really fortunate that those structures were in place to help us navigate the pandemic. But then because it was a pandemic year, it left a lot of us on the VLA side kind of scratching our head and saying, now that we're gathering this data, we're reviewing this data, is this an anomaly because of the pandemic, or are these indicative of larger trends? And so the pandemic, I was asked this question today. I think it was a great opportunity for the staff at VLA to really lean into the virtual side of our curriculum. And I think it's translated into this year's focus of how do we really strengthen our practices and really continue to innovate and be that cutting edge of what school learning should look like at the secondary level. And so this year, what we focused on is how do we bridge that gap? But VLA's got this unique hybrid structure, and pre-pandemic, no one even knew what hybrid was. But how do we really maximize that time where students aren't on campus? And to do that, we've really dug into our grade level meetings and grade level communities and try to identify opportunities to strengthen and build connectivity to the outside world through mandatory volunteer hours that this year has just been optional. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. In addition, as I shared, coming out of the pandemic, again, our staff really articulated and collaborated quite a bit, articulated that they felt that the online learning component of their classes is really stronger than it's ever been. And I think from the observations that I've been doing, it's certainly true. And I think we've developed really best practices and standards that are in alignment with those identified by national organizations of, here's the best practices for online learning. And then the last piece that we really focused a lot on this year is how do we use the data that we're collecting and getting students and staff to have data-driven conversations and begin to make targeted goals and start to make tangible changes both in the classroom level and on the individual student level as well. So to tackle each of those individually, community engagement background, again, when we looked at our indicators of success, we quickly identified that those students that are out in the community, actively engaged, whether that be dance, sports, volunteer work, or just simply a job, tended to be our most successful students. And so for us, it was, well, what do we do to provide that access for all students? And it seemed like, we have this great format that really lends itself to that, but we weren't, as a team, making those direct connections that we needed to get those students, in those opportunities. So with that, this year, we are really excited. We were fortunate enough to roll out a program called Pilot City. We're doing a whole school pilot, so free. And basically through that process, it was an online platform. Students are building projects to win internships. So they have a menu of choices, a wide range of things that's done all through a Chromebook. Students find topics that excite them, and then develop a project basically. And through that, they're automatically entered into an internship. Additionally, as I shared, each grade level, and it was really spearheaded by our freshman grade level, has set some volunteer hour goals, a little more than 10 hours per student. And that's been a great opportunity. You see some pictures here of them as a cohort and as a class to really identify, well, what are some volunteer opportunities that's available to us in our community, and how do we maybe participate them during the school day or after the school day, again, with that flexible schedule that we have. And then as a staff, we've really been digging in to find those real world applications of learning. How do we connect students in this curriculum with the real world outside the four walls of a classroom? Again, some more pictures of some of the community service activities that was completed this year. That included writing holiday cards for retirement homes in the community, volunteering at the local food bank, writing thank you letters to our custodial staff. They went out and just within this last week did a park cleanup in Natomas Park. And coming up, they're going down to help out Joey's Food Locker. And additionally, going to go to the fire station. They're baking cookies and getting a tour of the firehouse.
Cool.
So in relation to the instructional practices, what I was really, really excited with, just as the principal of VLA, is that staff last year was really focused on how do we use the PLC process and the book study to just have this structure and have conversations built around PLCs and really have this shared vocabulary. But from that, and from the work that we did in the pandemic of really diving into our online curriculum, staff's really identified, like, how do we get more opportunities to collaborate with our classes, aligning our curriculum so that, say, what we're doing in history classes align directly with what they're doing in science or an English class. And additionally, as I shared, the PLC process really gave us that framework to start to have these discussions. And this year, the PLCs has really, I would say, kicked off and been in a really, I don't know, for me, exciting place because we have one group that's looking at how do we reduce barriers to increase access to education, whether that be online, in-person workshops, or just independently while students are working on their own. How do we make our learning and our curriculum more accessible for students? An outcropping of that, teachers have been observing each other's classes. And then for me personally, finally just been able to get into classrooms more than ever before. And it's been great to see really the application of that. And then our other PLC group has focused on really strengthening students' independent reading comprehension, because so much of our program does happen independently. And obviously reading is a key component to that process. In regards to data, where were we at prior to this school year? Let's say there was definitely data analysis occurring, but it was inconsistent. And, we were fortunate enough to have Ian Summers, who's our teacher assistant, and really I say our Swiss Army knife, who just loves diving into data and has just been an invaluable resource to our team. There was a point where quite frankly, staff was resistant to data collection, coming from any type of standardized mechanism that was outside of their individual classroom assessments. And a result of that was just that we had inconsistent ways to really, as a whole group, sit down and say, yes, I know that students are making a grade level's worth of learning in the school year or more, or are they not making that learning? And so from that, staff articulated the desire to have weekly data chat meetings. So every single Tuesday after school, our entire team sits down. We look at social emotional data coming from our counselors, coming from those individual academic coach meetings. In addition, we're looking at our 2.0 list, which happens every other week. So again, Ian Summers pulls all of the 2.0 data of students that are at or below a 2.0 GPA, really identifying what's some of the causes of that and how do we step in right away to kind of right the ship for students and provide the resources and supports that they need. Additionally, staff said, you know what, we really want a normed assessment that we can give twice a year and we can actually measure outside of my own class assessments, something that we can say, yes, students are making the growth that we're expecting or they're not, and then working to make those changes within our classroom. And so we've rolled out iReady. This was an example of our winter semester 1 final schedule, and you can see those benchmark assessments were built right into it. And so from that process, we've also started to really push students to try their best. And again, going back to those data goals of how are students kind of buying into this process as well. And all of that data is great, but then obviously you have to do something with it. And that then lends itself to that PLC process where we're starting to look for trends and identify how do we make that tangible change in student learning. As you can see, VLA, continues to get high need students and a population of students that are not always at grade level. And, frankly, I mean, this is what I love about VLA because we've got a team that will roll up their sleeves and figure out, how do we get you to grade level? How do we make that academic growth? And if you are 2 or more grade levels below, how do we build the structure so that you can still access the learning? Another person I just want to give a huge shout out to is Tasia Perry, our ed specialist. She teaches a bridge class for ELA and math for those students that are 2 or more grade levels behind, that really hones in on those foundational skills. And her ability to provide that supplemental instruction on top of her caseload to students with or without IEPs has really been a game changer for our team. And again, here's some of our ELA data as well. And I would just say this is coming from our winter benchmark assessments at the end of semester 1. So as a team, now that we've been having these data conversations, we're really eager to see what's that growth going to show at the end of the semester, and what changes have students demonstrated. As I transition into the next part of what's ahead, obviously recognizing that we can have the greatest program in the world, but ultimately enrollment is what's going to drive our next steps in our process. And I feel like on my end, a lot of that is how do we continue to sell the work that we're doing and share what we're doing with the community at large. Going back to our 5-year data here, you can see that while enrollment's not as high as it was last year, we're still slightly higher than the historical averages here. We are hoping and working hard to have another strong freshman class that can, again, add more students to VLA going forward. Ultimately, I think our goal would be continue to increase enrollment until we get to about that 150 student mark. So the question then becomes, how do we get there and what's next? And as was shared earlier today, the rebranding of VLA is, I think, one big part of that. In addition, getting our students out in the community, building those connections with community, all of that we see is really that continuum up to senior project and that senior experience class. But it's also those opportunities really to share the work we're doing with the community. And secondly, or third, I guess I would say would be the extracurriculars. How do we really get students to feel a part of this community and really to try their hardest, right? And find purpose in the work that they're doing. So again, a big step forward was this rebranding of VLA. And really the why behind that was it goes back to a lot of the conversations I was having with prospective students and new students as they were applying. And many people who are Virtual Learning Academy and particularly post-pandemic, they thought that this was an all online school. And many families, frankly, coming out of the pandemic did not want that. They have some COVID PTSD of their kid just being online. And so, with that being said, it doesn't really capture the work that we do. And oftentimes it just became one more qualifier for families before they would engage with our program. And I think by having this new name, it really captures what we're doing on campus and truly represents our program as it stands. So with that being said, been working with teaching and learning and a number of other departments of how do we really have a strategic rollout of this new name, the Early College Academy, and how do we really pull in our VLA, and which is now ECA community to be excited and be a part of this rebranding together. And one part of that, show really quick, we've been having students actually film videos, our leadership students, of why ECA. And here's one quick one. I don't know, do we have time for that, or should I?
Yeah, try it.
Please.
Okay, so I'll just pop this up here
Hello, my
really
name
quick.
is Chloe Hersick, and I'm currently a junior here at ECA. I transferred here from PFAA for a lot of reasons, mostly because of the sense of community. That being said, I was first nervous about the possibility of coming here because I didn't really understand what it was. But once I looked into it, I realized that ECA offers a sort of education schedule that works for my academic goals as well as my life at South Campus. For instance, I was able to take psych, which significantly helped me figure out my college goals. Now I will hopefully be going forward taking my first class regarding the legal system in America. Overall, I was mainly interested in the community among ECA. I remember the first day attending the school was when we were still online, and I was introduced as a new kid and right away was welcomed by everyone in the community. It was this start that made me feel more welcomed. I really appreciated the opportunities and way those here at ECA show that they really do believe in the work you're putting in. I also am very happy to say that I've been able to make connections here that have only made the experience a lot better and more meaningful. I'm really looking forward to being a senior next year and do feel confidence that ECA will support me and help me graduate with a plan.
And I would just say that I think, I feel so fortunate and proud of our students and our sense of community, because that is something that I think sets VLA apart from really any other high school, is that I can walk in the Learning Center, I have freshmen sit next to seniors, and parents feel heard, kids feel supported. And I think it's really, again, how do we articulate that message? And what better way to do that than having our own students share that out?
Hello, my name is Chloe Hersick, and I'm currently
a segue into our rebranding. So with that is my presentation, but obviously want to open it up for any questions. And I do apologize, I'm sitting in the dark. That's because I have a 4-year-old that's inside the room, and this presentation would definitely be a little different if I was inside with light on.
Kevin, do you mind going back to the grade level reports? You had one for math, you had one for ELA.
Yes, give me 1 second. Yep, would you like to look at anyone?
Can we look at math first?
Absolutely.
Okay, so can you help me interpret this? Is this saying that 84% are below grade level on math?
That's correct. And that is representative of, I would say it reflects where many of our students are coming in to VLA. And that's why we always do an iReady assessment for new students when they arrive, to really make sure that they are in the appropriate math class. And what's fascinating to us is that in the same classroom where you may have a student who's at a 6th or potentially 5th grade math level, you may also have students that are at an 11th grade level, right? And so that those initial assessments allow us to make sure those students that are, accelerated are put in the appropriate classes. And then the reason why we've built the bridge classes is because at a high school math class, you still have to get through the content of integrated 1 class, right, for a freshman math class. And so the bridge class allows us to work on those foundational skills, the multiplication, the division, the long division, fractions. And what we see for a lot of our students that are down here in that 3 or more grade levels, it's those foundational skills that are missing that frankly you never touch at the high school level because you're getting through that specific math topic and subject.
Okay, and then moving on to ELA, I think I saw 60% below grade level, is that right?
That's correct. And to help offset some of that, obviously we had the PLC, right? How do we strengthen reading comprehension? But another part of that has come out of that PLC, it goes back to the time I spent at Leading Edge. It's how do we create this culture around reading? It's such an integral part of our program, where you might have 60 to 80% of a student's week done independently. Obviously, reading's a big part of that, even with UDL strategies where teachers maybe have their own videos and demonstrating. There's a lot of reading built into our program. And so we've been looking at how do we have like that 40 book challenge that Leading Edge does, or the big day of reading. How do we really celebrate that and encourage students to read and really be a community of readers? I know that Study Skills, for example, this year, they're tracking each book that students read and really connecting with Elson in the library, finding books that are of interest to students.
So when I think about our rebranding, Early College Academy.
Yep.
When I heard that, my assumption was our students would theoretically be a little bit closer to that college level.
Yep.
But what I'm hearing is we're 84% below grade level on math, and then we're 60 on ELA. So how are we going to balance that?
I would say the beauty of the Early College Academy model, originally the intent of it was to provide underrepresented populations access to college. And one of the things that research shows is that it's not always the amount of units that students take, but rather that they've had successful experiences taking dual enrollment classes. That's what translates the most to them not only getting into college but also persisting. And so to your question, I would say directly is, I think VLA is a model that allows for a lot of differentiation and a lot of individualized pathways. And that's been the beauty of dual enrollment, is where we have kids that have graduated with 2 or more years of college done. But then for other students, just completing, that one college class is a huge, huge win. And really the structure that we've tried to build is how do we provide that support so that all students have that access to it. And what that looks like, just not to digress too far, but historically we have a study skills class that is year long, and that's how do you do VLA. And then this has been the last 2 years, the first dual enrollment class we enroll all students in is the HCD 310, how to do dual enrollment, how to do college. ARC has done some rebranding and really looked at how do they most maximize what that class looks like. And so our goal next year is that study skills is year long, but students that have a 3.0 GPA at the semester have the opportunity to actually take it. It's a HCD 490 class, very similar to the 310, but they can actually take that dual enrollment class freshman year. And then if they were in study skills all year, they needed that additional support, they could then start that HCD class where we're currently offering it in sophomore year. Again, just one opportunity. And then obviously we still need to make sure we're providing support for students to get them to grade level, right? And that's been the work within the PLCs. Also the structures that we built with the math support class, the math bridge, ELA bridge classes.
May I add in a little bit as well?
Yep.
Right now, nearly a third of students who enter Los Rios after high school graduation are actually below what we call grade level. So this isn't actually uncommon.
Okay.
And to Kevin's point with the early college high school model, it is one that is beloved to me. My son went to an early college high school. I started the first early college high school in Sacramento a quadrillion years ago. But that was actually the model with students who fit this profile.
Mm-hmm.
As Kevin was mentioning, that having access to go when you aren't the college going student is what actually propels you forward.
So what I think I heard is that these numbers aren't indicative of success in college,
Correct.
like much standardized testing.
I think the other piece to think a little bit about too is the whole intent of dual enrollment or early college programs is operating under the assumption that every single student who is in high school is going to go on to college. But what high schools can provide that colleges can't is that direct in-classroom support. So sort of the idea is with the early college program and the coursework that Kevin and his team have selected with Los Rios, they recognize that not every student is yet ready to take, if you will, like a freshman level course in college, because they're sophomores in high school.
Yeah.
And so actually the course sequence that's put in place, as Kevin was mentioning, that very first class is a course on how do you actually access the college environment? Like what is a good college student do in terms of note taking or attending classes or reaching out to the guidance counselor? And then sort of it builds sequentially from there. But what makes VLA and PFA, I mean, but we offer dual enrollment courses in slightly different ways between the programs. But a similarity between the programs is that there is a credentialed teacher on campus who can support and work with you through it. So if you think about, like, we have English 300, that's a freshman level English class for college done at the senior level here at Natomas Charter School. There are some students in that class that are not college ready yet, but we have them in that class because there's a credentialed teacher that's working with them while there's a university faculty member working with them at the same time. So they actually are getting like an extra level of support. And what, VLA, soon to be ECA, also sees in their enrollment patterns is, remember that the kids that come to VLA are coming from all over the place. And they're not necessarily all coming in ninth grade. Some have gone to ninth grade someplace else and actually had a pretty traumatic school year, and then are coming to us in 10th grade. And so that's also reflected in this data a little bit too, is that especially in this COVID year, their 8th grade year and then maybe their freshman year were a little bumpy, and now they're coming in as sophomores, and we're kind of trying to figure those pieces out. But what works well with the VLA model is this idea that you're not spending Monday through Friday, 6 hours in a classroom. You, much like the college classes we've taken, you might have 2 to 3 hours worth of scheduled workshops for a particular class, but you can come on campus into the Learning Center and get ongoing support from whichever credentialed teacher is monitoring the Learning Center at that time. And so as you walk through that space, that's actually a pretty common activity that you see going on, is teachers pulling groups of kids and working with them a little additional math support, or teachers working with a little bit of English support. In many ways, it's actually a more supportive environment than we see in a traditional site-based high school model, like a PFA or an IB or something like that.
And I would just also add to that I'm excited that staff has gotten to the point to say, yes, we need this benchmark data, because the way CASP works is it's a single data point in high school. We only get it in 11th grade. And so now finally we can start to say, okay, I'm looking at this, but what is the growth that students are making in the year? And finally, we have that data now on a consistent basis this year going forward.
So it's maybe next year we'll be in a better position to look at some of the students who may have been testing that they were below grade level, just to make sure that they are progressing.
Correct.
And wherever they were when they came here, we just want to make sure that they're improving.
And a student might be at a 4th grade level when they start at VLA, but if that student's now at a middle school level in a year, I mean, that's an incredible amount of growth, but they're still going to show up on this as 3 or 4 grade levels behind, right? And so that's where we kind of get down in that individual data. But you're right, yeah, it's going forward is now we're doing these processes consistently. We want to see that growth consistently.
If I can add one more thing, it's for us to remember, it's the testing and. So it's knowing these and wanting to move the students and helping them being the students with the understanding they can access their post-high school plans. And so how do we help you understand what they are, either through volunteering, taking the college courses, having an internship, this and the research that Kevin was referring to, what we know is there's a study that was out of Stanford, and there's one out of UC San Diego that looks at, and Worcester College, that look at what happens with students when they're in high school, and that self-fulfilling prophecy that you're not a college student. These programs that Kevin is developing, it helps students know that we're all college students. We can all access it. We just may need a little bit more help. You might need to know where the Students with Disabilities office is. I might not need to know. And so those are the access points. So attending to this data is extremely important so that we can help them see how they're progressing. And that's what Ms. Perry's class that Kevin had mentioned, Ms. Perry's class helps the students fill some of these gaps so they can move forward, and doing these, the other interventions at the same time. So when they finish high school, they're able to be the productive individuals that they want to be.
And I might add also, one of the wonderful things about VLA, soon to be ECA, is that they really do look at the kids individually, right? So it's not like they're saying, hey, you're a sophomore, you're, you know, way far behind, but you're a sophomore, so I'm gonna push you into this college class. You know, they're working with them, they're saying, okay, look at all the growth you're making, you know, let's try this class versus this class, you know, and so they're helping them choose what would be the best place for them to, you know, dive in and start gaining that success. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but you guys had like 12 different classes that kids took last year, and I don't even know the number off the top of my head this year, you know, so there's a variety that they can take, you know, so that they can feel that success in different ways, not necessarily just the English and math. So they're really good.
Kevin, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, so the dual enrollment, is it still 10th grade? Is it still that requirement? Because you mentioned freshmen, and I thought, are they, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so with the CCAP agreement, there's not, any student has access to it 9 to 12. And so the change going forward next year was that technically freshmen could take that first HCD class.
Right, okay,
For
so
90.
that's opened up. Now, how does that relate then to PFAA, like when PFAA students might be able to take, is it still 10th grade?
So the big difference, obviously, with PFAA is that, you know, they have to make sure that students are completing all their arts requirements, right? And so oftentimes in a PFAA student's schedule, the first opportunity for them to have that free period, it tends to be in that junior, senior year, is where we see a lot of the PFAA students coming over, just because of the way their schedule works. They've had to make sure they got through all of their arts electives first.
Got it. Right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for doing this virtually as well.
Sorry I couldn't be there.
All right, I think we have one more star on our agenda. Form 700.
Just your final reminder, these are due at the end of this month. So if you've already turned them in, you don't have a packet in front of you. Otherwise you do.
Otherwise you have to pack it of shame, is that what you're
Just
saying?
gonna be honest. I have mine too, don't worry, right here.
If you have no reportable interests, all you have to do is just check the box and sign it, because I've already even filled out all the rest of it for you. And so these are due at the end of this month.
We wish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ziba. Thank you, Ziba. Executive Director comments, Dr. Wood.
Yeah, so we have actually quite a few exciting events coming on campus in the next few weeks. So In the Heights opens on March 25th. So that we'll actually have 2 weekends of that show, so March 25th, 26th, and then the following weekend. And the following weekend, the Thursday night show is a thank you to all of the community members who helped out with testing and vaccinations here in Natomas. So the kids are putting on a little extra show that night for everyone who helped with that. We're gonna have our first back at the Sacramento Kings night on April 5th. So that's an NCS and Natomas Arts Education Foundation night. As the Leading Edge student rep mentioned earlier, soccer games for Leading Edge have started. So we actually have a game tomorrow and on Thursday, it's gonna come by campus. CAS testing is going on, spring break is right around the corner. And as you know, we close out today, or actually yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of when we had to close campuses for the first time. So I think we're all a little grayer, all a little wiser, but just wanted to say thank you to the board for your support over the past 2 years. It's definitely been a ride. You know, I remember back when we had that first closure meeting and we thought we were just closing for maybe like 3 weeks, maybe. But so we navigated quite a bit together. So just on behalf of the staff, thank you all for your support throughout all of it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
For all the work. It was a long haul.
Thank you guys, you were
amazing. So thanks, everybody. Board comments. Anyone? So I have one. We had our awards tonight, and that was obviously very cool. So to the extent we can do that in the future, I know we have basketball stars, but we also have a poetry star.
Maxer.
If we can bring them in, I think that would be awesome. And if it's too much for every month, maybe we do it quarterly or something, but we can think about that.
Right.
All right, anybody else, future board agenda items, comments? Okay. Nobody objects. I will adjourn the meeting at 7:56.
Thank you.
Thank you.